Let's step into the lab. It's Ladbrokes Cox Plate time. It's the Weight for Age Championship, $5 million, 20-40 metres, Group 1 here at the Valley. Cam, the barrier draw. Animo, the outside.
Yeah, most certainly the most interesting that come out of it is what do you do with the 3-year-old? Almost the exact same conversation we had a couple of weeks ago in the lab around the Caulfield Guineas. Firstly though, if you don't know, you get to choose your barrier. So essentially you get drawn out early, you can choose what's going to favour your horse, and Annabelle Neesham could do that. Zaki, the middle of the track, Call Sign Mav right next to Zaki, so they'll both go forward. I'll get to that shortly. Very elegant. Again, perfectly placed from a barrier perspective. I think will be ridden cold. Damien Lane to take the ride there, so we'll get to that. This is the big question. But I don't think it sets the race up because Animo, I'll explain shortly, but I think the other 3-year-old from Barrier 1 actually changes how this race could potentially be run.
Well, they choose Barrier 1.
So you know what that means? Out of the gates, Dean Yendel's going to get this horse fired up and it's going to definitely go forward. You've got to be able to find yourself out of the gates if you want to lead, if you want to be on speed and try and change the nature of this race. You can't miss the kick by half a length or a length. It just makes it too hard, which leads us to an intriguing settle grid. The best 2 minutes in Australian sport, Hammer.
Zaki, Animo, where do they end up? And what about Captivant here as well? Remembering with Captivant, the last 2 3-year-olds to win the Cox Plate have led.
Agreed. Seamus Award, obviously, as a maiden did in 2013. Zaki's going forward. There is no doubt. We've seen what happened when it got beat a couple of weeks ago. I still think that's more of a track thing, didn't stretch out. But I think J Mac will just let Zaki roll. So, Call Sign Mav goes forward. Didn't lead in its only 2,000 metre race, which it won. And I know Luke Nolan's like, we can take a seat. But I think these two, if they start to eyeball each other, they get a little bit keen. This is why Dean Yendel's so important. If he uses that gate, which as you said, they chose, it means they're going to go pretty forward and try and make these two horses get a little keen early and get down the side by the mile and be like, all right, this is a truly run Cox Plate, because you want to try and use that and the lighter weight. I still think Call Sign Mav gets across. If Dean Yendel does take a little bit of a seat, Zaki can sit right here. This is why James McDonald has a plethora of options. What I think will happen is Call Sign Mav, I think Captivant will get up on its inside. They might start to cruise along, and Zaki and J-Mac will be right off the back of them.
Animo?
This is the interesting part. I was certain Damien Oliver was going to go forward in the Caulfield Guineas. He didn't. He went back and still beat them. But it's a bit different in a Cox Plate compared to going against your own age. So I did see James Cummings suggest, hey, we're going to go back and back him to do the exact same thing he did in the Caulfield Guineas. I'm not 100% certain on that because I think if you go forward, you can slot in behind Zaki. I think Dalasan will go forward. I think Probabile from there. I think State of Rest will sit here. I think Moanga, in fact, will be in front of Very Elegant. I think Gold Tripper will be out the back. She has to be ridden colder. The races that Very Elegant has struggled in, she sat a little bit too close to a really hot speed. She can have last absolute crack at them. It's going to be exciting. And when it comes to the market, Hamo, I'm assuming you got Zaki around the 220, 230 mark?
Yeah, but Zaki's been a little bit easy. 280 now, and I think you might actually get better.
Please.
Animo, $4
Please.
out to 480, and it's all because of the Queen. Very Elegant. $7 straight after the draw, now into 480. Little bit of interest in State of Rest. Then Captivant, the one we mentioned, one of the 3-year-olds at $19. But you've been on fire. Time for your tips. The confidence meter will be blowing to pieces here.
You know, normally people say, oh, stop it. Keep it coming, Hamo. Keep it coming. And the confidence meter is nice and high. Zaki, Ladbrokes punters, get involved in Very Elegant because I want to get a bigger price like we did last week with Incentivise. The track, the firmness of it, and just the way it plays at Caulfield. It's caught many a great horse out before, and I'm going to back that in. I think he bounces back, and its actual stablemate, Moanga, I thought was really good in the Epsom. That's my each-way play.
Well, I'm going to go for Animo. I think really good 3-year-olds win this race. I was going to go a 4, but I've gone 3. The outside draw does worry me a little bit, and I thought the best roughie, State of Rest. That win at Saratoga was off the charts. Back into the Ladbrokes Lab for a look at this $2 million invitation. Randwick, 1,400 metres for the girls. Fascinating race.
When you look at the barriers and where they're all going to go, I think you and I are both going to push towards Nudge, who was great first up. It's going to go back. The speeds from here. Barrier 4, Madam Legend's going to take him out nice and quick. If you have a look here, Vangelic likewise. I think they're the two leaders in the race. So they've got a lead out as well. But the favourite, where does the favourite go? What's Tommy Berry going to do? And that is the question mark, Hamo, because there's a couple here.
Wide draw on Trivier.
So this is why I find this an interesting settle grid. Because look, as I said, Vangelic and Madam Legend will go forward. Outside of that, there's a lot of horses that like to settle it back in fields. The pace might not necessarily be on because there's only the two going forward. Media Award will go all the way back. I think we'll get run off its legs, but we'll come home late. We'll start with Star Tontes. We'll go forward. Not dissimilar to Home Affairs last week in the Everest. Lighter weight. I only got the 52. I think you go forward and try to allow the lightweight to help and sit right off the back of the pace. This is Tommy Berry. What does he do? Normally he gets back a little bit, but I think he'll go forward, try and find that gate. If he can slot in, it is going to make life a hell of a lot easier. Now, if a couple push up, we'll get to the ice in a minute, but if it gets stuck 3 wide, that's the big concern. But I just don't see a great deal of pace in the race outside of these two, so I think Tommy Berry on the fave, or I assume the fave, can get across quite nicely. I think Nudge will get back, Media Award will get back. They'll be hoping for a really, really fast pace, and we'll get to Ice Bath in a moment. But when I look at that, I think you got 2, Vangelic and Madam Legend can take them out, and then I think the fave can probably just maybe go a little closer than it traditionally does.
And it is definitely the favourite on Trivier. Terrific first up, beaten second up, but was in season. And it was hard to make ground that day, but it has been a little bit easy out to 310. And then we get to Nudge, who I think both of us quite like. There's been interest in it. Still, that $13 is attractive. You think it's a value?
I reckon it's not just a value. I think if they really hum along, as I said, I've got concerns about it. If they really hum along, I think it can win the actual race. I'm all on Ice Bath, as I show you here. I think that price is nice. Should have probably finished a length and a half closer in the Epsom. Kind of got restricted for room around the 300 metre mark.
Only a 3. Only a 3 confidence. Where you've lost your mojo.
Yeah, well, you know what? The invitation's got me a little bit nervous. No, I'm just not 100% sold on the speed map. If it works out perfectly, I think Ice Bath can win the race. I think Nudge can come flying. But it's my confidence meter is just a little uncertainty around my settle grid.
Well, it's rare, but I've got more confidence than you have. I'm with on Trivier. I think the sense of timing's been great. The stable's got a super record in grand finals, and I loved the run of Nudge at Caulfield last time. I'd love to take the Ladbrokes Lab to Bondi Beach, but we'll have to settle for the Bondi Stakes. Randwick, 1,600 metres, $1 million for the 3-year-olds. Interesting race.
Always is a very interesting barrier draw when you have your favourites, or at least one of them, drawn really wide. That is, of course, Coach Watch. Dufresne on its outside will be in the speed. We'll get to the settle grid in a minute. Here's Halal. No, there's been a fair bit of money at Ladbrokes for it. Drawn perfectly. Tommy Berry can make a decision. And if you go deep inside, barrier 3, Keefe, Jay Ford will give it a nice little rev up and go forward.
What about Coteal? Barrier 2, loves to be on the pace.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I think Coteal, all right, there you go. Dufresne comes across, Keefe goes forward. Coteal needs a rump to follow. I think it definitely runs its best with a little bit of cover, but I think straight out of the gates can sit right on the back of the leaders and the speed. So I think no doubt using that gate, Coteal will go forward. This is the interest. Here you go. Halal and Coast Watch. Halal in a better position because he's a little closer to the fence. Will go forward, and Coast Watch I think can slot right in behind it. In this situation, they are Berry and McAvoy, superstar jockeys. So I'm not overly concerned. Not dissimilar to the invitation. The settle grid will play similar. You'll have 2 horses with speed. Coteal will go forward, and I think these 2 will be able to find a spot in transit. I would be stunned if these 2 Group 1 winning superstar jocks ended up 3 wide. So I think it's going to be a fairly regulation run in transit. All right, Hamo, what is the market telling us?
Huge go here at the top of betting for Hilal. 350, 320, now 290 at Ladbrokes. Coast Watch out to 330. Coteal, interest around the $6 and a bit of support for Dufresne at $10. Who are you tipping?
I'm tipping Coast Watch, and it is not an omen bet. I think you can turn the tables on Halal. And for a little bit of a value bet, each way roughy here, and a Kerr, I thought was really nice. Ran okay in the gloaming. The freshen up, I think, will help.
I think Coteal's just going to stalk them, be too strong late, and I think Dufresne is the best roughie.